And here we go. We have liftoff. Propulsion continues to be nominal.
RCPA chamber pressure looks good.
Rolling up. Roger, roll, Atlantic.
Water towers, fly! Yes!
Tango down to nominal.
Flight downside FD off. Bring in FD off. Off. It's orange!
Oh my god! Oh my god!
Decollage. Put that in the big bag, Eagle.
343 unfolds to go.
Indeed.
We rise together, back to the moon and beyond.
The methane will be igniting with the flare, correct?
Yikes. You good? Sure. We don't need any more of these.
Hello and welcome back to another stream from Starbase. We are looking live at Booster 18 as it prepares to roll to Masseys for some testing. It's a bit of a late night stream here today, but thank you all for tuning in. I see your 5x5s in chat. I am DWise. I am your host, but of course, I'm not alone here. Joining me on commentary tonight, the one, the only, Ryan Weber.
Hi everyone. Hi D. How you doing? You know, it was a crazy week for you and Max and those down at the spaceport for a bit here, and now it's crazy down in Starbase. SpaceX appears to want to do everything all in one night.
Yeah, it certainly has been a crazy week, but it has started to slow down a bit. Now we've got the Atlas off the pad, New Glenn is off the pad. There's a lot to look forward to, though. I know we've got launches coming up, and we've got this roll tonight, which is a big deal because this is our first really good look at version 3 Starship hardware, right?
Yeah, this is the first fully stacked piece of Starship hardware of Block 3. The other one is sitting in Mega Bay 2 right now. Both vehicles are fully stacked. However, there's still a lot of testing that has to go on. Right now, Block 3 booster is, or I should say just Booster 18, is headed out to Masseys to do its thrust sim and cryo testing. What they do after that is kind of a question mark. Will it roll back and get engines and grid fins, or will it maybe get grid fins and then roll out to the pad for some checkouts? Because you have to remember, this isn't like a Block 2 booster, what we've seen, like Booster 14, 15, 16, whatever, where they go cryo it, they bring it back for engines, they roll it out and static fire it. The pad that this vehicle is going to go to is brand new. It's brand spanking new QDs, new mount, new tower, new everything. So it's all got to get tested at some point. So the question becomes is, will they do it without engines, like do like a tanking test and check for alignment, check the control systems and do all that? Or are they just going to go for it, roll it out, and static fire it? I think it'll just be a tanking test at some point, but I can't wait to see, to be honest. It's going to be really exciting. This vehicle is the culmination of several years of work and flight tests for SpaceX. I just can't wait to see it fly.
Yeah, it is really exciting. And of course, I also can't forget our producer in the background, pushing all the buttons, pulling the levers. Carson, the one, the only. When we were thinking this was going to be earlier, it was going to be Kevin and then Jay. And so we've got a whole bunch of people. And of course, as well, we've got the field team. So out in the field, I don't think we can have them on comms at the moment. They are quite busy. But we have Caesar out in the field. We have Gage out in the field, all getting ready, bringing you these live camera views. And I believe we also have Colleen out in the field bringing you some nice high quality pictures as Booster 18 makes its way towards the road. Now, if you have questions, be sure to tag NASASpaceflight or at NSF in chat, and we will try to get through all of those as this rollout happens. I'm really looking forward to this. Now, already starting off, we've got support from throughout the day and into this evening. starting off with Carl with a super chat asking, where's Jacqueline?
I
Wrong
didn't
coast?
know.
At the port.
At the port.
Hello, KMR. Yeah, Jacqueline is in fact on the East Coast here. So
Really, we should be asking, where's Booster 18? Where's Booster 18?
that's a far better question. And Booster
It's in
18
front of
here
you.
is outside the Star Factory area, rolling down the road to make its way. We also have
Masseys?
two Masseys. Yes.
Two Masseys. There you go.
You forgot to
It's
finish
late.
the sentence.
I guess also on commentary tonight we have the one, the only Kevin Michael Reed.
I mean, there's only two of you, so unless someone else joins, I'll hang out. I can't answer any questions about Booster 18, but that's why Ryan Weber is here.
Yeah, we're basically throwing all the questions to Ryan. Ryan's got the in-depth knowledge. We can see the cops are clearing the way as the roll continues here. I want to also thank Chromatic for gifting Red Team membership. And
By the way,
Miss-
me going on stream has summoned someone.
oh,
You know,
I like. Well, I'm here because I'll be bandy camming this booster coming out and doing some tweets. It'd be rude not just to turn my microphone on and talk for a bit.
well, it is always great to have you here as well, Chris B. Thank you for hanging out here. We've got lots of questions about where's SLS, also on the coast. Where's Shuttle? A little bit in the past, especially if you have version 3 booster questions. Those would be the ones on topic for today that we'll be able to ask on stream. But Johan M's World is wondering if this is for cryoproofing. How long do you think Booster 18 is from static fire and launch readiness, looking at it only from the booster side?
well, I will say this. If you compare this booster with Booster 17, which is in Mega Bay 1 attached to the bridge crane ready to get scrapped, so bye-bye Booster 17, they, between the final stacking, so the putting the methane tank on top of the LOX tank, it took them about a month to get it ready for cryo. This one is 2 weeks, 14 days. So they cut that in half as they've been cutting it down and down and down. However, this booster also comes along with the fact, as I stated before, the initialization of a launch pad. So I don't think a static fire is relatively close. I think I still think we're talking like a month and a half to 2 months away, maybe even from static fire. It really depends on how well the initialization of the pad goes and how the deluge works, and just make sure everything's just cross your T's, dot your I's. Well, I did that backwards, but anywho, that's kind of where they're looking at this point.
All right, now we've got a lot of questions coming in here about what sort of differences have we seen, Ryan, between the version 2 and 3 of Booster. I think we'll get a lot revealed to us here tonight and moving forward, but there are quite a few.
Oh, there's a lot. For one, we can even look at it right here. You can look at the aft of the booster. It looks a lot different. For those of you who might look at it, there are no more external stringers like there has been on just about every single other booster. I think maybe except for BN1 and Booster 3. There's no external stringers on it. All of the basically the gas stuff. So you're talking your autonomous pressurization, whether it's your methane or liquid oxygen, or just methane and oxygen, I should say gas. Whether it's your spin-up gas, whether it's your pressure control, or just your engine controls as general, is now outside the aft in basically rings that go around the vehicle inside conduit and whatnot. So that's all now moved to the outside. There's no more engine shielding. There's now basically metallic tiles that are on the aft end. The aft end is no longer a dome. It's basically a puck of steel. And that's just kind of the tip of the iceberg. I mean, as you go up the vehicle, the LOX tank is bigger because the common dome got moved up. You have an integrated hot stage ring. There's only 3 grid fins. The grid fins are bigger. The chines have been moved around, as well as 2 chines are smaller than the other 2. There's no more CO2 tanks in this. There's mostly just COPVs. There's a ton of changes. Oh, and 2 QDs too. I could keep going and going and going. I probably could go for the next 2 hours with it, which should cover a good chunk of the roll. But there's a lot of changes, and there's a lot of stuff to test, and I cannot wait to see it all happen.
You know, Ryan, I've got a thought that a lot of people have been asking in chat. As we've been waiting for this boost to roll out, saying, Block 3, okay, I get it. It's the next evolution along. Is this the vehicle that will be sending ships to Mars? Because I think there's a 2-part answer to this, isn't there? There's a V4 coming. And I think that'll be the big rocket that Elon is envisioning, the one where they'll start building a self-sustaining city on Mars. But V3, this will be capable of sending ships to Mars, won't it? Literally will be a booster we're seeing for the first time being sent out for testing ahead of Flight 12 that will become the workhorse and then eventually will be sending those first ships to Mars.
So the way I look at it, and kind of the way SpaceX seemed to explain it, is so right now, Block 3 V3 it's the next evolution in Starship. So we've gone through the suborbital hops, we've gone through the initial flight tests, even like Ship 24, Ship 25, and even in through the later boosters through Block 2 of Ship. This vehicle, with this booster design and this ship design, as it is right now, is the part for the program that will propel it to the moon, and likely the initial flights to Mars. However, once Gigabay is operational, because they can't do this with their current megabays, the booster will get extended. So the booster is going to get taller. They'll extend the tanks a little bit more. They'll probably get a little bit more out of the Raptors here and there. And then for Ship, they'll extend Ship a little bit, and then they'll put 3 more RVACs on it, and that'll be Block 4, version 4. That's what's really going to get us to Mars. That's basically the next leap. That is much more performance, much more capability overall. But this is the start of that. Is basically what Block 3 is.
You know, Chris, while we have you here, I think we have a perfect question for you from Mr. Fluffy. On topic, who do you think we are? Also, how many horses can Booster 18 lift? Do you have any idea?
Sorry, I was completely expecting a shuttle question, and then I got a horse question. It was kind of like that's even more generalized towards me. But yeah, what's the question? Sorry, I interrupted you because I was so expecting shuttle. I was ready to sort of rub my hands and answer it with some shuttle history. But no, the horse question, how many horses are what?
How many horses can Booster 18 lift?
Oh my goodness. You know what? I'd have to... Well, it depends on the size of the horse for a start. I mean, the average horse is half a ton. So, Ryan, help me out. An average horse is half a ton.
I'm doing math.
Yeah, go on then. Let's try and work this out. Yeah. You know what? No one's ever asked me that before. By the way, while we're working that out, look at that view. That's some nice details there. Again, we've all got to appreciate this. This is not something where we've just rolled up by the side and taken a camera out there. This is something where we're out there filming SpaceX, completely aware of it. And they roll these vehicles out. I think Elon has said it before, saying if anyone wants to work out the ITAR parts of things, they'd have to see inside the vehicle. So everything outside, it's like, I think he said good luck to anybody who wants to copy this vehicle just from seeing what the cameras pick up from the outside. But it's still a privilege. This is so rare. You've got to appreciate that even at KSC, we won't get this close. Although, D, that's a question for you. When the boosters start arriving from Starbase for the initial flights from KSC, they're going to arrive in the turn basin, they're going to get offloaded, and they're going to go past right our cameras. We're going to get pretty close to this. Not this view particularly as close as this view, but we're going to get some pretty close views, aren't we?
Oh, yeah. We are going to be... I mean, there's basically a road that is part of the press site that the boosters will roll down. So our 24/7 cameras will certainly have a great elevated view down on a horizontal booster, which I think that's going to be really rare, and I can't wait to see that. But on top of that, there is potential that we could get our own cameras out in the field pretty up close, just like this. And I think that perspective of seeing ships and boosters horizontal might show some things we haven't seen before.
Yeah, it's very exciting. So, Ryan, what was the calculation on horses?
If you're going to average half a ton, and assuming Raptor 3s are running at 260 tons, give or take, because I think that's what the 250, 260 is where they want to run them at, you're about 17,160 horses.
Wow!
At an average of half a ton.
That's crazy. I didn't think it'd be that many. I mean, there's an aircraft that carries equestrian horses, the Olympics. They call it Air Horse One. So just imagine some horses on a Starship. That'd be crazy. They'd be very happy about it.
If you're going at half a ton of horse, the booster, this booster, if you're 260 tons per engine, you're almost at 8,500 metric tons of force. Metric tons of thrust is what you're about at. So that's not including the dry mass of the booster and all that other stuff. But just with, I would say this, just with the thrust of the booster, it could carry that much. That's not including the weight of the propellant or anything else. I'd have to do all of that on its own. I forgot to include the weight of propellant. It's late, so we'll go with that.
Either way, it's a lot of horses, but yeah.
If you'll take a look at the middle of the shot there, you can see the flashing light. So that's SpaceX having launched their drones. So
yeah,
it's not something everyone can do, but SpaceX is able to launch their drones, and that's usually a good sign that they're trying to gather some content, and we can expect something soon, whether that be the roll, but we've seen them prepping for this roll and moving a bit, so hopefully we'll get that even closer view really shortly here. Now,
sorry, I saw something in the chat. Someone said I pulled a gateway because I forgot to include mass or something.
I get that reference. Well, I'll tell you what, Dee, the window for the roll has now begun, so it could be any second now. The police cars are there, the light truck is on, the SPMTs are on. This is it. I always like a rollout. I'm glad we got something, because we have got a gap between flights. Flight 11 and Flight 12 was always going to be a multi-month gap, not just because of the vehicles, but because of Pad 2. But Pad 2's looking pretty close now, Ryan, isn't it? Wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I'd say it's pretty close to being ready to go. And here comes Booster 18.
Here we go.
It's got all of its covers on and everything. I would not be surprised if after the ship QD arm is installed, which that could happen within the next 8 to 9 hours. I wouldn't be, to be honest, or next 12 hours that ship QD arm might be installed. They're not that far from getting that thing operational. I think the only question mark, as some of us have had, is the new mega bunker they built. Is if that's for the command and control systems of the pad, or they're going to have to kit that out before they get ready to launch. I think that's the only question mark. Other than that, they're pretty much done with that pad.
Yeah, and here we go. I don't know if we're going to get some more audio as the SPMTs get closer, but that tour we got a bit earlier was from Caesar, and we're going to see a mix of views from the field team here.
Oh,
let's see that up close look under Booster 18.
There's a few things I don't get bored of. I don't get bored of the Falcon 9s landing on a barge. I don't get bored of these rollouts. These SPMTs are super impressive. And skills, by the way, the skills of the drivers, I know it's their profession, so of course they'd be skillful, but do you remember the rollout of the first orbital launch mount for Pad 2, the Pad 2 rollout, where it got stuck in the mud and they had to do it by one wheel to get through this muddy part of the road? I mean, no, it was kind of funny. It was also kind of scary. But the skills of the drivers, they were not panicking at all. They thought, well, we know what to do. We'll just raise one axle, lower one axle, raise one axle, lower one axle. And they got through it. I mean, it's incredible skills. I'd love to have a go at it personally. Look at these wheels turning now.
trying to see here. Trying
Remember
to look.
how far away they used to keep people from boosters or ships that were rolling down the street? And do you see how close our cameras are right now?
Just the very fact that we have this perspective, we're able to see through the stand there at the underside.
I'm trying to see if the tiles, the metallic tile heat shielding is on the aft. It's hard to tell. I think it is.
And if you're noticing some of those black flashes on stream, that's because Caesar's also taking some high-res pictures from this camera that are going to be available to members. And some of those might be posted, but all those are going to be available to members with that great view that we're getting here.
Oh, it's stopped as well. That's very nice of them to do that. People are thinking there's engines on this. It's not. Is it? Have they got thrust rams on this stand, Ryan?
Yes, there's 13. So for the 13 centers and then the outer 20, they don't really need to test those as much. It's more of they can simulate. Basically, they just want to simulate the center of the thrust puck is what they want to do is with this. So they'll have 13 rams that'll push up against it when it's loaded with cryo.
A little programming note as well. Dee mentioned it there that Caesar's taking a lot of photographs. Our team out there takes so many photographs, and not to put any to waste because they're all valuable, especially when you go through areas such as the pad, the vehicles, the Gigabay, Masseys, all the places, and the other sites for KSC, even Wallops now. We've got Mitra out there taking daily photographs from Wallops, which is interesting because the Rocket Lab and their progression with Neutron, they all go into L2. So an L2 is probably the one place I'd say as a member to go if you want a fire hose attached to your face for everything. But of course, we utilize a lot of the content, a lot of the photos. We put it on social media. We've got all our social accounts. Elisa would tell me off if I didn't mention the fact that we're not on X, we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, we're on TikTok, we're on all the socials, but also the videos we put out. There's a video that we just put out about a few hours ago, which included a lot of the content that Caesar and the likes are taking right now. So I'm going to link that. I'm going to spam it in chat. I've not spammed for a while, D. I'm going to spam.
So now we're getting a really nice view at the chines here, and so we had a couple people in chat asking if some of the strakes are longer or if the chines are different heights now.
Yeah, so 2 of them are shorter, 2 of them are longer. There's 2 that are on the raceway side, or otherwise the tower side, as we can know it. Those are longer, and they're also closer together. And then there's 2 that are on the QD side, and on that single grid fin side. Because remember, this has 3 grid fins now, not 4, and they're spaced equally, more or less, because of course it's missing one on a side. But two of the chines are bigger, 2 of them are smaller, and then they're of course spaced differently apart. The ones that are spaced wider apart are the ones that are going to be facing down when the booster comes in to glide back. So they're facing farther apart. With that way, basically they can create a little bit more lift, and then you can have a slightly bigger glide for the booster, which means you wouldn't, in theory, have to do as much of a boost back burn. You can actually glide it a little bit back.
Oh, and let's take a look at this. Is that a view from Gauge in front of the booster there that was on the move? But we'll get another look at that, I'm sure, shortly.
Yeah, it has to be, because if Caesar's there when it was rolling out with those very close-up views, I've got a funny feeling Caesar is ahead of the booster, not Chase Cam, but ahead of the booster, and the booster is chasing Gauge.
And that is indeed Gauge's feed from the back of the truck looking. So we will continue to have views of the booster throughout its entire roll. Caesar will be following on behind, so we can continue to provide these views even on the somewhat longer journey to Masseys than we have to the pad. I really want to thank some of the support we've got here for this late night stream, though. Mr. Fluffy with a super chat saying, sad day, departed best coast. Heart equals broken. Hashtag blame Sawyer, but yay B18. We have Daniel Hogman gifting 5 red team memberships. Thank you very much, Daniel. If you got one of those, be sure to thank them in chat. Now, we have Rosebud53 with a $20 tip to tips.nasaspaceflight.com. That money goes directly to us to help us continue to provide all these views. Thank you so much for that. Asking when Masseys came operational once again. So it's been a little bit of a journey, but what state of operational really is Masseys for these version 3 rockets now?
Well, Masseys has basically been operational for cryo operations for a bit. Basically, because they cryoed what did they cryo? 17 at this point. Yeah, they cryoed 17 back in April. Basically, after they cryoed 17, they then started the modifications for Block 3 booster. But of course, as we know, they cryoed 2 other ships after Ship 36. They cryoed 37 and 38. Or was it just, it might have just been 38. I had dates in my head are getting scrambled. But basically, when Ship 36 blew up, all the power to the site was more or less cut. So they had to switch to generators. They cryoed a ship or so on generators, basically. While they were setting up the new power lines and everything like that, which they're still kind of doing. It's not 100% operational yet, but it's close. It'll be ready in time for a ship static fire, and it should definitely be ready in time for a ship cryo when that happens. And it's, of course, it's ready for Booster 18 right now.
Indeed it is, and I cannot wait to see this testing continue. Now, we've got a couple people also asking about sort of the diameter of the booster, and at a certain point, rather than making everything taller, wouldn't it make more sense to make the booster and ship a bit wider? And is there a reason they can't do that we know of?
I mean, so when they originally went to design the Starship, it wasn't called Starship at the time, it was called MCT, and eventually the Interplanetary Transport System, or the ITS. That was going to be 12 meters wide on carbon fiber and all that fun jazz. Basically, they decided to compromise on a rocket that isn't that wide, because the wider you make it, the harder it is to move the rocket around, the harder it is to really do anything with it, and the larger the infrastructure is required in order to service the rocket. So basically, if you look at those mega bays right now, if you decided to go to, say, 12 meters, basically those mega bays would probably have to be 50% bigger than they are, and that's a decent amount more area to take up. The Gigabay itself, if you still wanted to keep 24 workstations, you probably would need it 25% or more bigger in terms of like area taken up or more. It's all about footprint and being able to, use, service and use the vehicle, and to being able to design the infrastructure around it. In time, they might make it larger. The problem is going bigger than 9 meters at this point is every single bit of their tooling, all of their test infrastructure, their launch infrastructure, everything is geared to 9 meters. Basically, every pad that they're building, every work stand they've built, every building they've built, the factory they've built for it would all have to be torn out entirely. The factory probably could remain, but your tooling inside it would be trash. You wouldn't be able to use any of it. So you're talking all the billions of dollars they've invested in it would then get thrown out, and then they have to invest billions more to redo everything. And they don't really want to do that.
All right. Yeah, that definitely makes sense. Once you've got the tooling that will work, that seems like a ton, especially like welding the rings. Would that all have to be totally changed out.
Yeah. Like basically they have 9-meter wide turntables with the robot welders. Well, those turntables, goodbye. They got to bring in 12-meter wide turntables now. It's just there's a lot that would have to change. It would be a massive undertaking and cost a lot of money.
By the way, Dee, we've got some special guests in chat. I'm notorious for reading chat. I noticed a certain Jack Bayer, is it Jack?
No.
Something-
That's Rack Dryer, I believe.
yeah, Rack Dryer. Yeah.
Yeah, but we've also got CSI Zach Golden in as well. I always when he's in chat and I'm on stream, I always give him a little spam of his YouTube channel. There we go, because it is important. I'm going to make this point because as someone who started a site 20 years ago, and the channel's obviously only about 5 or 6 years old, but when you start something yourself, it's a heck of a journey, and it's a lot of work. People don't appreciate probably how much work goes into these things, and it's original content, and that's the thing. Original content is not a common thing these days, so it's a lot of hard work. So whenever you see a creator, I don't know if that's the right word, a creator sounds a bit less than what you do, but it's always important to sort of like recognize that and support it. It doesn't hurt us if you support both of us, does it? I'd rather people support both channels than not one or the other. So that's why I always put the link in when I'm on a stream. So I've just done that. Sorry, Dee, I was going on a rabbit hole there, but there you go.
No, thank you very much. I mean, the community out at Starbase, everyone working together with a common goal. Like we're really a big team. Everyone will be hanging out as photographers out there. So it is always wonderful to see other creators in chat. Speaking of, I see Scott Manley in chat. Hello. Scott.
Hello.
Now, we've got a bit of a journey before we have the next flight here and the first flight of V3. But just in the next couple days, when can we actually expect a cryo test to potentially take place on Booster 18?
It could literally happen tonight, and by tonight I mean because for us it's it's 12:15 a.m. on the 20th. It could happen the night of the 20th. It could absolutely happen. But with it being a Block 3 booster, it could also be a couple of days until they do it. It's kind of up in the air. Just for basically an example, for Booster 17, they rolled it out on the 8th, cryoed it on the 8th and 9th, and then rolled it back on the 15th or whatnot. So it could happen quick. It could take a little while. It really depends. I mean, it's a brand new booster. It's a brand new block, so it's kind of up in the air.
And looking more to the distant future, when will a Starship reach true orbit, do you think? So that would be probably the same flight as the first ship catch attempt, or at the very least, like it would be one flight before a ship catch attempt. But we're looking at least at flight 13, I would expect, because they want to prove version 3 before they go to a true orbital mission.
Yeah, I know Ryan's going to have a big thing to say about this. Personally, I think Flight 12 is all about checking out Block 3. It probably, and Ryan, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it'd be probably a repeat of what we've seen so far. I don't expect to catch the booster. I don't think anyone does. But everything goes well, especially as Flight 12 pretty much did. There's Flight 11, I should say, there's a fair chance that the following flight, Flight 13, they'll look to go for it. What do you reckon, Ryan? Because I might be getting a bit excited about that. If
Flight 12 basically does the same thing Flight 11 did, which is fly a perfect mission, that's 3 straight landings in the Indian Ocean and possibly 3 straight perfect splashdowns of the booster. I have a distinct feeling SpaceX would go to try to catch the booster and the ship on 13. Try them both. Why not? Yeah. I think they would try. At that point, you've got 3 in a row under your belt. The new test of your vehicle is good to go. Try it. If you have to abort the ship, you dunk it in the Gulf. But if not, and it's on target, and you catch both, or even just one of them. Like say you don't catch the booster, but you catch the ship. Like imagine, and I haven't been down there, but I can only imagine the reaction D or someone would have down there of being at river and you're staring at the tower as there's a ship hanging from it with no booster below it as it has got scorch marks from coming back from space. I don't even, that would be nuts to see.
I mean,
maybe
we already feel that to some degree with the booster catches. Those are always awe-inspiring. Watching them fly back, it feels unreal as you're watching a skyscraper come down. But with ships coming from the west rather than the east, we'd have to be like turning around, seeing it flying overhead, and especially because of like the higher heating from an orbital reentry, and of course, as you said, like the smoking and all that, that would be an even more just awe-inspiring experience. Now,
Good
we've had some
point.
support in chat that I really don't want to miss here. So first off, Bideford with a $50 super chat. Thank you so much. We always see your name in chat, and we love having you here and hanging out, and the support is so appreciated. Saying, bring it on. So excited and great to hear Chris tonight. Chris, it is great to hear you tonight. Thanks for being here for the stream.
That caught me out a little bit. I was going to quickly add. I know you're trying to get through a panel. I'm notorious for saying no. I've got more to say. The flip and burn. Let's not forget about that. The flip and burn. We've got the booster coming back, and that was spectacular when we saw the booster coming back and doing its landing burn and then guiding itself towards the chopsticks. With ship, you got the extra element of it coming down belly flop style and then doing the flip and burn right at the last minute. It's going to be a nail biter, because I'm sure people who remember the hops and the way that the landing burn, the flip and burn would not necessarily be right to start with. They're going to get that right for it to be then guided into the chopsticks. I've got every confidence they've got it now because they've got the test in the Indian Ocean, but it's going to be something spectacular to see, even more than the booster probably.
The first person, whoever it is, whichever photographer, whoever it is, that can look up above South Padre Island over towards over Texas and catch the ship coming in doing its banking turn, coming like down, kind of it'll basically like split South Padre Island and Port Isabel, come in and then belly flop down and do its flip and burn and basically back into the tower. Whoever can catch that and track it the whole way, I hope someone's able to do it. It'll be one of, especially if it's clear skies out, that'll be one of the craziest things to ever see.
Well, I will certainly be aiming there and trying for that my absolute best.
Guys, I need more cameras.
I'm in Florida right now, Kevin.
But no, not right now. I'm talking about when that actually happens. That's going to be amazing.
I can offer you 5 feeds.
Okay, all right. Because all of our cameras are going to have to turn around, right?
Like,
yeah, and they're going to be
and
some
most of them aren't like set to be looking that direction. We're looking towards the pad and generally towards the water, right? So that's we're going to need more cameras.
Yeah, most of the time, any individual setup of cameras for photographers will only be aimed like within roughly 90 degrees, and depending on the mission, like up to 180 degrees if you're like south of the pad, and then it's a polar launch on the Florida side, at least. It's a polar launch that ends up also going south, then you're turning like 180 degrees. But with this, we're going to have the initial launch turn, which will vary depending on exactly where you are, and then you're going to have a full 180 for that re-entry, and it will be a real challenge. I think we're going to learn that some of our 24/7 cameras will have to be looking through the tower supporting them in order to be aimed quite where we want, because we're not normally aimed at that point in the sky. But it'll be
an interesting challenge. But if we can capture that ship as it comes in, It'll be insanity.
I know.
Dark Silver Space says, KMR, you always need more cameras. Never happy.
Yeah.
You're right. You're absolutely right. And I'll admit it. Sorry
you're
for cutting you off, Chris.
If you remember, and you've seen the behind-the-scenes production of our Starship streams, you'll have seen KMR's multitude of cameras on the multitude of screens. I believe your production area looks like a mission control center as far as I'm concerned. I dream for the day to have that many screens in my room, which will never happen because I don't need them for a start. But yeah, more cameras? Have you got the real estate to put more screens in? I mean, I think I've seen you've got some spare screens just in case we get more cameras, Kevin. I don't know if that's true or not.
I do have spare screens. I probably have like 6 just hanging out in the studio waiting to be brought in. But I think I actually need a bigger control room at this point. So maybe we make a new mission control.
Kevin, 'cause I've been told before that my cameras have filled up your multi-view once I give you every feed I possibly can, and others are out there. Like, when we do the full deployments, your multi-views are full, and you have, like, 3 multi-views, right?
Well, actually, last launch was a light launch because you weren't in Starbase, and you were only giving me 2 views, 2 cameras.
I was giving you 3 cameras, actually.
You were giving me 3, okay. Yep. And normally you give us many more than that. And our multi-views were full at that point. We had 2 full multi-views. So, yeah, we're going to need more multi-views. That's the only answer. And more monitors and more cameras. Yep.
All right. Now, I can't thank y'all enough for being out here for the late night stream and for the support. So I want to work through some of it real quickly here. Daniel Hogben with the super chat. Chris B made me do it. Now, Chris, say Falcon again for me.
Oh, hang on. Oh, yeah. Yeah. See, I don't know, right? There's some. I mean, I actually think I get it wrong anyway. It's not an English thing, but I've always called it Falcon. Oh no, see, I'm thinking about it now. I need to just sort of like not think about it and say it. But Falcon 9, there we go. I usually say Falcon 9, whereas I've heard everyone else go Falcon, and that seems weird to me. But I've heard English people say Falcon, and I wonder if they're just Americanizing it because when we write news articles, we do write in American English. We go to the main audience. That's what we do. But when I'm speaking, especially my Yorkshire accent, I can't help myself. I'll mispronounce people's names, no matter anything else.
Now, Mr. Fluffy with a super chat asking if we have a skateboard cam. I'm not sure if Caesar is on his skateboard or not tonight, but he is following behind. So, Caesar, if you've got an ear in, if you can let us know if you're on your skateboard or not. Thank you for the support. We have Mike Anderson thanking us for streaming it. Thank you for the support, Mike. Virginia with a super chat. No message, just support. And that support is so appreciated. Chumslinger with a $10 tip to tips.nasaspaceflight.com. Keep up the incredible coverage. You guys rock. Thank you very much. Now, one rack dryer has upgraded to a flight engineer member. Jack, thank you. I can only speak for myself, but I know everyone would agree that like we're so glad to see your journey here, and it was such a pleasure being able to work with you for as long as we have.
He'll be back. He'll be back. As we've got, there's no chance we're going to keep him away from the likes of Artemis 2 and some of the big Starship launches. There's no chance, and Jack will be welcome back for those without a problem at all. So I think that is the arrangement that we will be hearing from Jack again on our streams at some point when his work allows it.
Absolutely. Now, as we continue, we're looking at the aft section of the booster. One of the things you mentioned as the differences is that engine layout. So we've seen lots of engine shots and mega Mach diamonds with version 2, but do we think the sort of shape of the exhaust might change a bit? Is there a chance like that mega Mach diamond gets extended somehow if the engines are sort of shifted a little bit?
The only ones that are really shifted are the centers. They're no longer equidistant from each other. I gotta remember. I don't remember off the top of my head what the angles are. It's been a minute since I looked, but basically, The center engines, 2 of them are spaced farther apart from the other compared to the third on the center 3. That's really the biggest change with the clocking of those engines. They've also been turned, so I got to remember here. I'm trying to remember which turbo pump is inboard compared to which one is outboard, but it shouldn't really change much at all. You're still going to get the Mega Mach Diamond. It's still gonna look amazing. The biggest thing I want to see though is it seems like Raptor 3 burns a little bit cleaner than R2, so more blue. So will it look more like New Glenn? I don't know. That is something we're gonna have to find out when this thing flies. So I can't wait to see that.
Yeah, and we did get word in the back channel that there's no Tony Hawk tonight, so Caesar is following behind, but not via the electric skateboard. So we've seen V2 was a bit of a challenge, especially at the start, but now it's gone on to its success and they've improved it. But what sort of milestones, you touched on it a little bit as we get on the path to Mars, but what sort of milestones do you think we'll see with V3 before that jump to V4 eventually happens?
Yeah, V3 has a lot riding on it. Basically, let's start with booster. Booster needs to work, obviously. Number one, the Block 3 booster needs to work. Needs to complete its mission as a full, like its predecessors did. But it needs to be able to be turned around quickly. So they were able to do that pretty quick with Block 2. It was only like a few months between turnaround times on those. The question becomes is how quick can Block 3 be turned around? Are we talking days? Are we talking weeks? What's the turnaround time of these? They need to try to get it quicker, and whatnot. And basically, that's more or less what Booster needs to do, and it's got to perform well. Ship, on the other hand, is a whole other ball game. Basically, ship needs to get to orbit. It needs to have long endurance in orbit. They need to do actual payload deploy. They need to get a cargo door installed and make sure it works. They need to make sure the ECLS systems work. They need to make sure all the airlocks, everything that they are going to install work. They need to make sure docking and rendezvous works, propellant transfer works, the depot works, the tanker works, the HLS works, the crew version works, and cargo variants work. All that has to work. Ship has a lot of riding on it. It's basically there's a lot of objectives and milestones that still have to be completed in order for the Starship program to get where it needs to go. And most of it rides on Block 3.
It's exciting though, isn't it? I mean, I think the big thing we're looking forward to next year is the improp transfer test. So, I mean, if they can prove out their refilling objectives, because that is the big deal with Starship, isn't it, for its capability to really become to the forefront. If they can do that next year on the HLS, the HLS milestones, then I'm not too concerned about those. The talk and the obvious thing we all pretty much knew that the HLS schedule is going to stretch out a little bit, but it's just that capability. If they can prove the improp transfer, then I think it's game on.
So here's an interesting question that I think I'll actually throw to Kevin if you're still willing to talk on here. Wondering.
I'm not.
You're not? You know what? I can cover this question pretty well anyway. Johan's World is asking, don't you set up cameras individually before every launch in order to cover the events you want to cover? I mean, Kevin, do you want to talk a bit about the mix of cameras, and I can talk the field perspective?
Yeah, so we have about 20 robotic cameras that we have out there 24/7, 365, or if it's a leap year, not 365. And then all of our crew comes in for every flight. And then D, you can talk more about the crew.
Yeah, so we really try to augment things as much as we possibly can. So things like the trailer deployment, that's something that we do where we're preparing that, bringing it into position, and we're able to get a unique perspective that we can't have every day thanks to SpaceX offering specific remote camera sites. On top of that, we will deploy additional cameras, whether they're fixed cameras like the Z-cams I often do, or sometimes we'll deploy the positioner. We like those because we can put really nice cameras on the side to bump up the quality over certain other 24/7 cameras. So we really try to add a mix of cameras. And anytime I deploy like a slow motion rig, I'll make sure I have network, because while my focus might be the slow motion afterwards that I'll go and edit, I can also send a live feed at the same time. So I really like to do that.
Yeah, one thing that's really becoming important to us is improving the quality of the production. And if we left, cameras that are in the $10,000 to $20,000 range out there 365 days a year, they'd get destroyed. Our robotic cameras get destroyed pretty regularly just because of the way Boca is. There's salt water, there's heat, there's bugs. Dee has experienced that.
Oh, don't mention the bugs. It's so bad. Um,
So our goal is when we come in for a flight, or even for bigger tests, we bring in higher quality cameras as well, and those cameras can do slow motion, can do higher bit depth capture, um, our proper tracking cameras. So we want to do the best that we can for our launch coverage, and that's how we do that. And it's not leaving those cameras out 24/7.
Yeah, we need them to be in good condition, but when a launch is happening, whether it's bugs, whether it's heat, or whether it's cold, we're going to set them up. And speaking of the cold, if you want to be set up for the cold, you can check out our Christmas collection of knitted holiday sweaters at shop.nasaspaceflight.com. We've got some new designs for this year, starting off with the crew launch Christmas sweater. There are lots of fun details. These are some really high quality sweaters. They're not like printed. The designs are knitted into the fabric themselves, as you would expect. So when you take a look at the front, it's basically 39A, but if you look over at the back, we've been sort of having a debate. We were talking about it for a while, like, is it Florida? Is it California? Because we have the capsule landing, which doesn't happen in Florida anymore because of that trunk. But then you've also got a booster return. So maybe that's California with the palm trees, and the booster's a different booster. Maybe it's a launch from a couple years ago when they still did the return. But we've got the great Christmas sweaters. We, of course, also have the Starship-oriented Starbase Christmas sweater with all the best moments. And yeah, the engines have been fixed from the initial re-entry club. Don't you worry. We saw that get pointed out, Scott. And that has been addressed in those couple threads of yarn that make up the engines for that re-entry. So those Christmas sweaters and some really nice pants for pajama pants are all available as part of the Christmas collection, as are previous year's sweaters. We have an EVA one. And those pants are actually made from real photos. Those aren't just generic designs thrown together. Those are actual photos of Starship hardware. So
Crispy sits in his basement all day long and knits those sweaters.
True.
He's
True. My thumbs are sore. I mean,
I'm sure. Not really. Not like no. Sorry, I totally messed up your merch plug, Dave. Sorry.
You're good. I was just like going into a flow state there. Got cut off with a joke. But if you want to check out those sweaters, any of our other stuff for the holiday season, we've got puzzles, a whole bunch of stuff. Go on over to shop.nasaspaceflight.com. That really helps us continue to provide our coverage, and you get something awesome in return. So, about where is Booster 18 at this point? I think we saw it pass the river area well before. It's getting closer, but it's got a bit of a journey. Do we know exactly how many miles it is from the production site over to Masseys?
Oh man, I did this in one of those last. I don't remember which ship it was. I think it was me, Jack, and Sawyer. The chicanery stream. That's the stream. I gotta do the math again. Give me a minute. Because we were having some chicanery on a ship rollout to Masseys. I think it was for static fire, if I remember. No, might have been for cryo, but some might remember that stream.
Feel sorry
Here
for
we
Ryan.
are.
He's having to work out how many horses can be launched, and then he's working out the distance between the production site and Masses. Here we got a map. Without Ryan Kate, without Mr. Map involved. That's incredible.
Yeah, 5.5 miles. There you go.
Well, let me tell you that driving estimate is not accurate for boosters, or it would have been done quite some time ago at 8 minutes. They have to take it slow with the SPMTs here.
Can you imagine if they didn't? If they didn't have to take it slow? And all of a sudden you just see a booster going down the road at like 35 miles an hour.
You know, I'm
That would be
curious.
terrifying.
If they... I'm not sure what the specific plan is for moving the boosters and ships to Florida. Like, when would they go horizontal exactly? Would that happen just, like, in the port of Brownsville or in Cape Canaveral itself? Is that when they would switch between horizontal and vertical? Because if they're horizontal from, like, a trip to production to the port, would they be able to go a lot faster?
It depends on the method, because they would likely be pulled by it's basically a semi with SPMTs on it. You could probably pull it at maybe 10 miles an hour. I don't know what the limit is on those. It's been kind of a debate whether or not they would bring him horizontal over at the production site, like maybe use Gigabay to do that once the bridge cranes are installed, or they do it maybe at the port connector road, or they do it at the port itself. I can't remember that it would have to move around some power lines to do that. I'd have to look back at it again, but I can't wait to see a horizontal booster and ship going to the port, or getting horizontal at the port and then showing up at the turning basin. Like, that'll be nuts.
Ryan, I have a question for you. What you're just the person answering all the questions, and three of us are asking you questions. So what kind of changes have to be made to the ship and to the booster to be transported horizontally? Because rockets are made for the upward pressure, not the pressure from the sides, right? But when you put it horizontal, now the pressure is completely different. So what has to change to make that possible?
So what's funny about that is, as we had literally saw earlier yesterday, we saw New Glenn go from vertical to horizontal. And we see them all the time with Falcon 9. We see it all the time with Atlas 5. Now, those are aluminum rockets. Aluminum, when you make it like it's called a monocoque structure, alongside basically like an ISO grid or an ortho grid, they're usually really, really strong. And there's New Glenn right there on its side. They're pretty strong, and with how lightweight aluminum is, the strength to weight ratio allows it to stay in that form with relative ease, along with structural, enhancements. Stainless steel is an entirely different beast. Stainless steel is heavy. You can add a lot of reinforcements to it and everything like that. I bet people remember back in the early days when you would see boosters or ships with dents inside them while they were even vertical. Fortunately, we really don't see that anymore. They've added a lot of internal structural support. But the the biggest thing I wonder is, are they going to do a jig that basically hooks onto the booster or the ship, like an external jig, or are they going to have to build something inside the booster or ship in order to keep it up? Or, for that matter, are these vehicles good enough to just be put horizontal and go? I don't know, because I don't have the structural limitations or the engineering drawings or the CAD files of these vehicles. But they may just be able to put it horizontal. They may have to make a special jig for it. It's kind of a cool thing to watch for, and I can't wait to see it. And it's about as best as I can tell you right now.
I mean, regardless, that seems like a lot of work and planning. So OP12 Studio was wondering, why don't they just fly the starships between the pads?
If we're if we're talking from like launch pad to launch pad, saying you fly it from Boca to Florida, well, you could do that with the ship. You could launch a ship with a booster, and basically the ship does a mission. Say it does a tanker mission, it does a Starlink mission, it does any of those things. And then the ship just returns to, it doesn't return to Boca, it re-enters and lands at, the Cape. It'd be the same thing as a shuttle taking off from Cape Canaveral and landing at Edwards. However, Edwards is not a launch site for shuttle, so they would have to put it on the shuttle transporter, the 747, and take it back to the Cape. But in Starship's case, you could catch it on a tower at the Cape, and if it's a tanker, set it down, get a booster, launch it again from the Cape. Boosters are an entirely different thing. They don't have enough. Even if you were to take a ship off, you couldn't really I doubt you could get a booster all the way to Florida. Even if you could, the amount of velocity required to impart on the booster to get it there, and the apogee at which it needed to hit, which means the booster would have to re-enter at a significant velocity than it already does, which means it needs a heat shield. Otherwise, the booster would likely burn up on re-entry, and can't really have that. So, and you don't really want to add a heat shield to it, because then you're adding extra mass. Also, I don't know how the FAA would look of having a booster pop that, especially going over like Tampa. I don't know if they'd be okay with that.
Yeah, there are quite a few decently sized cities between the Starbase and Titusville area that would certainly have to be considered. We also have to consider the incredible sport. I've let it get a bit out of hand with some of these old messages I've left in here. But Arianespace, thank you for the support. Wondering how many bananas can fit inside Booster 18. Are we counting like the tanks, or are we talking about actually like launching it to an orbit? Because I think those would be pretty different questions, but I'm not sure I have the answer quite for either. We have High Frequency Hertz with a hello. Thank you for the support. And we have a store message from Frederick here, just in time to buy a patch. What patch did you get? Let's see. Oh yeah, that is a gorgeous, that might be one of my favorite patches we've done yet.
You
Just
totally
now-
skipped over the fact that I provided you with the answer for how many bananas can fit in a super heavy booster. Thanks to our friend ChatGPT.
Oh, was that somewhere up above?
It
I
was.
sent the
You have to
question in
scroll up.
back channel just like 2 minutes ago, and I didn't see a reply.
It's approximately 37 million bananas with zero wasted space. So that's using all the tank space, everything.
Does that take into account the packing efficiency of a banana?
Well, see,
Or is this like
Really?
if you liquefy the bananas and then fill them with the liquid bananas?
Well, yeah. So there would only probably actually be a 60% packing efficiency according to ChatGPT, and that's primarily because the bananas are curved and there's going to be a lot of air. So they say 22 million bananas. So be somewhere between 22 and 37 million bananas. But I don't know why you'd put bananas in a booster.
I don't think it'd be all that helpful, or you would get very far.
No, then
Utopia,
come right back.
yeah.
Sorry, goodbye.
Newtopia Labs, a couple more to go for the goal. Yes, and y'all made it to the goal of something happening. Thank you very much for the support. M Hadlock 78, thanks for the great coverage. Thank you for the support. Telestar 86, we see your name in chat all the time. Can't wait to see the new camera angles of ship coming into the chopsticks. I know we're all really looking forward to all those camera angles. Now, we've also had two very large pieces of support here. First off, to Rick RC Horseman, a member of the team, with a $100 tip to tips.nasaspaceflight.com. Here's to more cameras. Rick, thank you so much. It is hard to express our appreciation. And Elizabeth Hopner with a $100 super chat. How many Raptor engines does this have? Thank you so much for the support, Elizabeth. Well, this one actually has 0, but it will have quite a few more.
Eventually, it'll get 33 Raptor 3s. Don't know when it'll get them, but it will get them eventually. And I cannot wait to see this booster be lifted onto the pad, fully outfitted with engines. That'll be a sight to see, and especially the static fire. I know DU can't wait, and I just cannot wait to see video and pictures of a static fire out of that pad. Like, just seeing the flames shoot out from both ends, it's going to look glorious.
It's going to be such a different view from what we've had to anything else. I'm totally expecting far more vertical plumes, but way more directed. And so we're going to have the ability to actually capture hopefully a really clean view of Starship Super Heavy as it's leaving the pad up throughout, because that smoke and exhaust is all getting directed away from there. At least I would hope it'll be the static fire will be a very telling moment for just how well directed everything is. How much does the plume expand after it leaves the flame trench there? But I mean, those are going to be some glorious photos, and it kind of makes the photos and videos that we have from Pad 1 all that much more special, because we're not going to see that from Super Heavy again. We're just going to have this new style, which, while it's exciting, I hope you got the shots. I hope we all got the shots we wanted with Pad 1.
Speaking of that pad, there's 2 legs left. And that's it. And then all that's left is the stubs of those legs and the plate. But they made pretty quick work of that pad.
My first ever trip to Starbase, those sorts of legs were there. I was there for SN15, and it was just the very starts of the OLM at the time. And so it's a little bit sad to see those going away. Starbase has changed a lot, and the skyline there is only continuing to change literally as every day goes by. Saad Usmani is wondering if they might fly Block 3 and 4 ships simultaneously. I'm trying to think of whether that might be the case. I guess if they're reusing the Block 3 ships regularly, it would make sense to slowly introduce Block 4 at that point. But I don't know. How long would they really fly 2 versions, and how compatible could they be? I'm not sure.
If all they're doing to Block 4 is adding 3 RVACs and stretching it for the ship, in theory, they could fly it with Block 3 booster. You would have a diminished performance because your engine, you might not have the engine performance you want or as much fuel in order to get the ship higher, so you probably would be able to put less into orbit. But if they wanted to keep flying, they probably could. The thing is we have no idea what other changes they might make to Block 4. We do know that they changed the ship clamp system between Block 2 and 3. So even if they had another Block 2 ship around or anything or whatever, it would never have been compatible for a multitude of different reasons. QD changed, clamps changed, and a lot of other stuff changed. They might do a mix and match. I honestly think they're only going to make a set number. They're going to do a quick manufacturing run of Block 3, like make a bunch of ships, a bunch of boosters, and then that's going to be their fleet. Basically, they're going to have a fleet of ships and boosters that they're going to run at some point. And then once the gigabays come online, especially the gigabay and Starbase alongside its factory, then they'll start making the extended version, so Block 4. That'll start getting introduced, and then basically, like they did with Falcon 9, they're just going to start flying Block 4, and they'll keep flying Block 3, and they'll probably just do expended missions with them, is what they'll probably do. Basically phasing out, like going from Block 3 and 4 to 5. And even phasing out the older Block 5s as SpaceX still does with Falcon 9. So I think that's kind of what they're going to do at this point.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. Once you're running into compatibility, like, it'd be a little bit sad to see. I mean, it's always sad to see hardware that could fly no longer be flying, but once you have to upgrade the pads and you lose that compatibility, that's pretty much what's necessary. Now, Newtopia Labs with some support for more cameras. Thank you very much for the support there. We will certainly put it to good use to provide as many of these views as possible. So this will be Gage's view you're looking at right now, out the back of the truck, getting that look at the Cybertrucks, SPMTs, and of course, Booster 18 back there. ODST Moody with a $10 super chat. Somebody, for the love of the ship, use this money to do the math for the angles you need to find that ship coming down. Check those altitudes and times on the first re-entry. I guarantee you we will be looking at all of that data to prepare as much as possible. We'll have photographers and videographers in many different angles to make sure we can capture that to the absolute best of our ability. We have Rocket Profit becoming a PadRat member. Thank you for joining the membership program. Daniel Hogben with $5 super. A KMR production tank could catch the ship coming back in. Kevin? A production tank versus a new studio? What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I have been asking for one for a long time. And that way I could at least be at the launch site too and watch the launch. But unfortunately, it's not in the cards yet. I'm stuck in the studio.
We need to get you out to Starbase for a launch. We've seen you we've seen you on the Space Coast, and it's always great to have you, but we needed to get you out there as well to see one of those things come back in.
I had this idea of just setting up a bunch of monitors on the roof of the Margaritaville Hotel and operating from there. What could go wrong?
A blimp could be let free and hit power lines, and you could lose all power.
D-wise. No.
It's a great view up there. I can't deny, but you I hope you have some batteries with you. Now, Mitsuo Level with a super chat for the Mower Cam Fund. I don't know when we'll get a Mower Cam specifically. I think we'll ask Gage about a Mower Cam, potentially. Ninja Decimator. Pew, pew, pew. I didn't do the pews quite right. That's fine. Thank you for gifting 5 Red Team memberships. Lisa, heading to the store, getting something from shop.nasaspaceflight.com. A Christmas sweater, the Starship Achievements Christmas sweater. Thank you so much for the support. And you said, thank you for the awesome coverage. Love everything you guys do. We are only here because of all of you. Y'all make this possible. Janine DC becoming a PadRat member. Thank you very much. Anonymous, love the coverage as always with a store message. Eric Payne upgrading to a red team member. We have Angela Bisco becoming a PadRat member, and Scott Brotherton. Wow, thank you so much, with a $300 tip for your multi-view and more streams fund.
Holy
What can you
jumping.
even say? But like, thank you. That is incredible.
You're amazing.
It's all this support that makes these late night streams and the launch coverage all possible. So, going back to some of the questions, we've seen a lot of proposed ideas for Starship reuse, a lot of up in the air, a lot of tests. But SpaceFan1782 is wondering, will the metallic tiles at the bottom of the booster use active cooling? Ryan?
That's actually an interesting question. So for most of it, it doesn't look like it looks like they're just going to be metallic tiles. The center of the plate did have some interesting things on test tank. I think it was 16 at this point, or booster 18.1. We'll just go with that. The Block 3 aft test article. It did seem to have some interesting stuff in the center of it. Honestly, overall, we don't really know. That's the kind of thing. I think it's just basically metallic tiles, but they might have added something to it, but we don't really know at this point.
Back at the start of the stream, we did not miss it. I threw it into the queue. Galax was wondering, will they paint the aft section black like seen in the renders?
Maybe. There was one location on all the piping when it rolled out that looked like it was painted black. We don't know if the entire aft is going to be painted black. They might not have done it yet because they have a ton of wire harnesses and testing equipment and other sensors hooked up at the moment. That's going to be something to watch out for when it after it comes out of the Banga Bay next and goes to the pad. So maybe we'll see.
Ooh, and we just got a really interesting question from Jacob So we were talking about how the ship QD might need to be moved for a version 3, but will a potential increase in height mean that they might have to actually take down or rework the tower itself?
So the nice thing of what they did about Pad 2's tower, and they're doing it over at the one on 37 as well, is there is 4 attachment points on the tower for the QD arm and 2 actuator attach points. So basically, what they're going to be able to do is with Block 3, they'll have the SQD arm installed on the lower set. So there's 4 that goes up. They'll be installed on the lower 3, is where it'll likely be installed sometime maybe later today. Is the kind of funny part on that one. It's currently at the launch site right now, hooked up to the LR11000, getting ready to be lifted probably sometime in the morning. And once you get to Block 4, well, the QD is going to have to move up because the booster is going to get taller. So what they'll likely do is they'll take the SQD arm and literally move it up. So they'll move it up to the top 3. So they'll move it up 1 attachment point, and then they can attach the actuator to the secondary actuator attach point, which is also moved up slightly, which allows them to adjust for the height. They'll have to do some shenanigans with Pad 1's tower because it doesn't have that extra attachment point. And not only that, that tower is 1.3 meters lower than Pad 2's tower. And it's the same thing for 39A's tower because the bases are different and everything else. So there's a whole list of fun stuff along with that. But as for Pad 2 and the 37 towers, they'll basically just need to move the SQD arm up. And if they have to move the QD up a little bit, then they will. But it shouldn't look as janky as it does over on Pad 1, where the original design was basically flush when you had Ship 20 and Booster 4. They then, between Ship 20 and Ship 24, they then moved the QD up a ring. So they moved it up 1.8 meters. So they had to move up the QD 1.8 meters, a full ring. And then they added the hot stage ring, as we all remember, for flight between Flight 1 and 2. That was another ring, so another 1.82 meters. So then they moved the QD up, again, another ring. So that's where we got the jankiness that is Pad 1's Ship QD. Luckily, they have planned ahead for once, it seems like.
That's great to hear, and hopefully will mean far less downtime between upgrading the pad, between taking the pad out of commission and putting it back into commission. Now, Isabel Inc. Has a great question here. How far in advance should one plan a Starbase or Cape trip? So, I think it'll depend a bit. With the Cape, you're probably a bit safer planning that farther in advance just because of the pure number of Starlink launches that you have. So you can plan a trip if you're not worried about one specific launch, just seeing a launch. You can just pretty much plan a week, almost any week in the future, and it doesn't matter too much. I'd avoid potentially some of the major holidays, but you're more than likely going to see a launch. For Starbase, you really need to have your plans be flexible because we might not have a launch date locked down until a week or less before. And if you want to see that launch, you need to have the flexibility to extend your trip because there could be some scrubs and you don't want to have a scheduled flight out on the day that it's actually going to launch. But Ryan, you just had a Cape trip here, and it did not go, I think, how you expected it. Like, you want to tell everyone about just how wild a Cape trip you had?
So basically, when I originally put my Cape trip in, I had to do it between a certain period of time because I couldn't take off work around the time they were going to originally launch New Glenn around the 9th. Well, as we all know, and the Atlas V, as we all know, Atlas V and New Glenn got delayed. So then it got delayed to literally the day I was getting in. So I then got an earlier flight through Delta, but then of course the solar storm happened, so they delayed another day. And a trip in which I was just gonna possibly see 2 Starlinks, I end up seeing New Glenn, Atlas V the night of, and then 2 Starlinks within, what was it, like 3 hours of each other? One was at 10:30 and one was like 1:30, I think, or something along those lines.
It was just a few hours. It was long enough we had one stream for the both of them.
Yeah. So basically, so I saw 4 launches, 3 different rockets from 3 different, 3 different companies in total. And I saw 3 out of the 4 rockets come back because Atlas V is not recovered. It would have been really cool if all 4 came back, but it's Atlas, it's ULA, whatever. Reuse is better, objectively better, because the day I left, I got to see New Glenn come into port. That was incredibly fun, incredibly cool to be standing next to that thing when it came in. Seeing all those Blue Origin employees incredibly happy. That was so much fun. And every time I'm standing there next to all the photographers and everything, I'm constantly saying, can you imagine when they just ship a Starship and a Super Heavy through the port and up through the turning basin? It was just like the Cape is just getting more and more, busier and everything. But again, it boils down to it is I kind of got lucky because the launch is delayed and scrubbed and delayed for a little bit. But I am incredibly happy with the trip. I also got to meet Julia, D, and Max, so that was a lot of fun as well. But yeah, sometimes you get lucky.
But even if it wasn't a quote unquote lucky week, this week we've got another launch tomorrow. I think we've got one a couple days after that as well. So there are launches all the time out here. And yeah, but Starbase is definitely a bit more finicky with making sure you actually get there for a launch. Now, in the same lines of what we were talking about earlier with the adjustments for future versions of this ship, Cat in Wonderlands wonders, can they even add height? Sorry, can they add to the height of the older towers? So, like, if we get to a point where Starship is meters and meters taller than the tower, would they be able to just add another section to those existing towers, maybe?
What's funny is I know Zach who's been talking pretty actively in chat has definitely looked at this. Well, one thing they recently did with Pad 1 is they took the cable out, so that's one thing they would have to do. The other part of that is they would basically have to slice through the roof segment, and then they would have to break apart the concrete that's within the columns, because remember, those columns are completely filled with concrete. And then they would have to disconnect the truss segments and then insert a new one. Probably have to build a new roof section, or they might be able to re-weld it back on with that. I mean, I don't know, because usually when you go to cut something like that, kind of becomes a pain in the butt to re-weld it back on. And then they would of course have to re-reeve the chopsticks and everything like that. So it's not impossible to do, but yeah, they could do it if they absolutely needed to, but I think they're going to try to avoid having to do that. I think they should have made the towers taller to begin with. They should have added another section to Pad 2's tower and to the towers at 37, and they should add one to 39A, but, that's just me. I think they should have knocked down Tower 1. They should have dropped it into the wetlands and rebuilt the whole thing from scratch, but, I'm not an engineer.
We have a few more pieces of support and some great questions here. Aiden Leary with a $9.99 super chat. How would SpaceX or the FAA handle a ship reentry over Florida? Would they essentially treat it like a normal reentry, or would they need to maybe do a funky flight path to avoid populated areas? I mean, that might be one of the advantages of some of that steering on reentry, right?
I am really curious the precise trajectory that they'll take for the Cape. I'd have to go look back at the EIS because I think they laid out how they wanted to do it. We saw for Starbase, they are going to, they're basically going to come in and they're going to kind of ride a little bit along the border between Mexico and Texas. They'll go just south of LA, and then they're going to try to basically run and avoid just about every major city they possibly can. And then they'll do basically the banking turn north of South Padre Island, and then they'll thread the needle more or less, which as much as threading a needle you can with a 52 meter tall, 9 meter wide stainless steel vehicle coming back from space, and then, go towards the tower, belly flopping, and land it. They'll definitely try their best to avoid going over major cities and try to thread the needle wherever they can. But of course, the whole thing with Starship is once they fly it enough, like once you're 2, 3, 4, maybe 2,000 flights into Starship, which 2,000 flights would be amazing because there's only one other rocket family that's ever hit that, and that's the R7 family, the good old Soyuz. You should be more than confident enough of re-entering this wherever you can, or anywhere you can.
Yeah, once we see all those reentries start to happen, I'm sure, like we've seen the confidence grow in Falcon 9 and bringing down its time closing the airspace, the FAA will get more confident and we'll be able to see perhaps more optimized reentries for Starship. Arianespace became a Capcom member. Thank you very much. That gives you access to the Discord, Capcom and above, where you can hang out with us. We have tons of chat channels. There's food chat, of course. There are a ton of dedicated channels for all the different aspects of spaceflight you want to talk about. Thank you for becoming a Capcom member. Sausage Man with a super chat, just finished year 12. Thanks for being there the whole time, covering all the flights and failures. Kept me sane when I felt otherwise. That's lovely. It's so lovely to hear that we can have a positive impact on people. We always love to hear those sorts of things and are grateful that we can play that part in bringing you some joy. And lastly, we have Michael here with a store message. Greetings from Poland. I watch live from Starbase every day. You're doing a great job. On to Flight 12. Thank you so much. And let's take a peek at what you got from the store. Gateway to Mars. How about that? Thank you all for the support. Now, Alan Rose is wondering where launch control in Boca Chica is located.
Forget which floor, but it's the office building. I think it's the top floor of the office building facing the launch site, basically. They have launch control as well as their stream area. We've seen it the last 2 launches. So SpaceX's launch control is, I think it's 1.3, 1.4 miles away from the launch site. So they're pretty close. But yeah, they built out a pretty impressive suite of monitors and systems in that office building, alongside all the engineers and everything else that's related to the factory. So it's pretty cool.
Now, one of the milestones upcoming for the Artemis program, of course, will be demonstrating prop transfer between vehicles. And Saad is wondering how much we actually know about prop transfer on Flight 3. That might be for version 3. Ryan, you probably know better than me.
It probably would have been the prop transfer on Ship 28. Basically. So I think it would have been 28, or is it? Yeah, because they did that and then they spun out of control. Basically, I think it was 5. They did 5 metric tons of propellant between a header tank and a main tank. Is the transfer that they completed. It was a proof of concept, really, basically to prove that they could do even just that amount. The actual prop transfer, in order to do it on the target and chaser, will probably be in the 100-ton range between 2 ships or something along those lines. It really depends on the payload capacity at the time of that vehicle. And then, of course, when going to the moon or Mars or you got to put material out of low Earth orbit, you're going to have to send up ship after ship after ship and be transferring 100 to 200 metric tons of propellant into a depot. And then when the vehicle that's got to go out docks at that depot is then going to transfer like 1,500 metric tons of propellant or more into that ship, which is something that's straight up never been done before. Large scale cryogenic propellant transfer in orbit has never been done. So it's something that SpaceX has to prove. But as far as we know, what happened on Flight 3 went all according to plan.
That is good to know. David Maslin is wondering, like, the Florida Gigabay process has seemed to be going a bit faster than Starbase's Gigabay. So why wouldn't they be able to potentially just ship rings and then stack them in the Gigabay here? Like, would it be ready in time for a Starship flight here out of Florida? What sort of timeline can we expect for the Gigabay itself and for us to be building our own Starships out here?
Well, if they want to launch next year out of the Cape, they can't use the Gigabay to stack vehicles. The robot welders wouldn't be ready, the bridge cranes wouldn't be ready, turntables wouldn't be ready, and the post stacking stands wouldn't be ready. And not only that, once you do build a ship and booster, where are you going to test them? The booster, you have 39A. So you could, in theory, cryo it on that pad if you set up the pad for cryo. And then you could static fire it. But you would also need a work stand to install all the engines after you cryo it. And the question is, do you want to thrust sim it or do you not want to thrust sim it? Because they've thrust simmed literally every single vehicle they've flown. Well, no, scratch that. There's one booster they didn't thrust sim, and that was Booster 9, because they didn't have a thrust sim to use on it. So they flew it without it. I don't remember if there was a ship that they didn't do it on. But basically, the whole point of building the vehicles in Boca, or should I say in Starbase, is that they'll build the vehicle, they'll test it, they'll get it flight ready, and then they'll transfer it there, and then they can commission the pad. So it's basically keeping it simple and easy. And as for when Starbase, as for when Roberts Road could do it all on its own, and I'm talking by all on its own, I'm talking like without even sending rings, I'm talking building stuff there. You would need a star factory, and they haven't even started a star factory at Roberts Road yet. It's going to be several years.
I'm just sort of admiring the reflections in the chines there. I think this is a really beautiful booster, to be totally honest. But I know you have some thoughts on this, Ryan, and Pearl was wondering, was I seeing things, or do the welds look less clean?
I love it when they walk the booster like that. It looks so cool. Well, the normal ring sections look fine. You will definitely notice a lot of points on this vehicle where it looks like they grinded welds off, and that's really because they did. The biggest notable look of that is if you look at the grid fin cavities, basically. They had temporary stringers installed to help strengthen the forward section when they went to build it. It was probably a one-off thing. They're not going to do it again. It's something that happens when you first build the first version, the first booster of a version, is you try to figure out how to build it. And sometimes you do temporary things. I think people will probably remember the big stringers that were on Ship 33's nose cone is because the weld between the nose cone and the payload bay was kind of wonky. So they used that to help stiffen it and then fix it, and then they took those temporary stringers off. There's spots all over this vehicle where that is. Then the one weld, if you're really looking at it, it's the weld between the CH4 tank and the LOX tank. So the way they build the boosters, they build the LOX tank from the common dome down to the aft, and then they build the methane tank from the hot stage truss section all the way down to the bottom of that, and then they take the methane tank and they stack it on the LOX tank and weld it. Well, since forever, SpaceX has not robotically welded that part. They have hand welded it. So they basically put it over there, and they kind of sleeve the rings together by a few inches, and then they hand weld it with like a couple of passes or whatever. The one on Booster 18 looks good in some places, maybe not in some others, but it's the first time they're stacking a Block 3 booster, so it's one of those things. I hope one day they do that robotically and not have to hand weld anything, because it is kind of hilarious to think that all the boosters that have flown, there's a primary weld sticking the two tanks together that is hand welded, not robotically welded. It's kind of nuts to think about when you think about it.
It really is, and we're getting a great view here as Booster 18 turns down Massey Way. I'm just sort of admiring the turn, because we're getting some of the more up close views we have had this early morning. Yeah, this view is, of course, from Gage, who was leading ahead of the booster, but now, of course, has stopped for the turn. Thank you very much. This is such a great view, Gage.
That was quick.
It really did feel quick. I was wondering if it was just me.
Usually it takes them 2 to 2.5 hours. That took them an hour and 25 minutes. That's quick. That's quick for a Masseys move. Huh. I really do love the design of all the pipes on the outside. Kind of curious how they'll hold up under aerodynamics, but if SpaceX did their homework, they put that thing in a wind tunnel and made sure everything was good.
Yeah, I love, there are a lot of rockets that have such a polished look to them, and while Starship might be reflective, it doesn't look polished. It's not like the weld lines are painted over or scorch marks are hidden on reflights, in the same way with Falcon 9. I love when you can see that a rocket is doing, like, a lot of work has occurred to make that rocket, or that rocket has done a lot of work.
Like, I will say this for that New Glenn, the paint that chipped off near that strake, or whatever you want to call it, it's kind of wings on that thing. I hope they don't repaint it. I'm gonna be honest. I want the battle scars to stay. I do. I think it'll look cooler that way. But if there's a corrosion concern, then of course take care of it. But otherwise, I always want to see the battle scars of boosters. It's become a thing with Falcon 9, and of course with the discoloration on the couple of super heavies the two super heavies that have reflown. But I can't wait to see the discoloration of the hot stage truss here, and then of course the constant flights of New Glenn and whatnot. 2 more vehicles that'll continue reflights and landings, and it'll be really, really cool.
It most certainly will be. Speaking of cool, more support. First off, from Crazy Alien 42 with a $10 tip. Does anyone know why most rockets, the ice falls off randomly, but all of the Chinese rockets seem to fall off in perfectly square chunks? Sure that it's necessarily the ice. I know a lot of rockets out of China have these sort of white square, like protective elements that do separate, but I'm not sure about the ice. I can't say that I watch a ton of the Chinese launches, to be perfectly honest. But I mean, Kevin, if you're still here, or Ryan, if you have a clue and want to tackle that.
Really? I haven't watched enough Chinese rockets to really say. I mean, I don't know if it has anything to do with. It wouldn't really be hypergolics. But who knows? I'd have to see.
I'm still here, but I have no clue.
I saw you were still in chat, so I wanted to make you feel included. We haven't had a ton of camera questions. If y'all have camera or production questions, this is one of the few times that Kevin's really just hanging out during a stream. So like, drop those in chat with @NASASpaceflight, and I will read them to him.
How many cameras do you think are going to be on board for the next flight?
Oh.
Anybody
Yes.
have any guesses? I mean, yeah. I will say it's been awesome to have live views from space as the ship is re-entering, and they're clear. They're so clear. That's super awesome.
I
Thank
think
you,
a
Starlink.
conservative estimate has to be at least 20.
And you know they have cameras, like engineering cameras, that they're not going to show us.
Oh,
Yeah,
And the
absolutely.
booster
everything.
all over the ship, and they're sending all that down too and recording it, I'm sure.
Especially because of how much this is still a development vehicle, like very much a development vehicle. So they have a ton of cameras and sensors all over the thing to record everything that happens to it.
Yeah, as much as we want to see the gorgeous views of these rockets flying and returning, SpaceX wants to know exactly what's going on within them that much more. And that's why the cameras are... The side product is the pretty views. The main thing is all the data that they can gather.
Cat in Wonderland says 10 that we see, 15 we don't see. Yeah, probably.
I think that's
Multiply
a
that by like
very
3,
reasonable
probably.
estimate. I mean, the number of tiny little things, whether it's like minuscule cameras to check how the ship and booster are engaged, or something watching the plumbing on specific engines, or the TVC in the engine. Like, there are so many views that I'm sure you ask certain people, they would be like, well, they're not interesting. They're just so that we can see XYZ. And then all of us would be like, that's why they're interesting.
I want a hot staging cam. I want a camera on that hot staging ring, on the top ring truss, during hot staging, because this...
It would be fried in seconds. I'm sure there is one, but it's probably fried within the first second.
I don't know. Here's the thing about a lot of people. I mean, at sea level, your exhaust is very, very concentrated, because you have air that you basically have the atmospheric pressure that helps concentrate and more or less push the exhaust into a single plume. When you're up to staging, you're in rarefied air. There's no atmosphere up there, pretty much. So your exhaust instantly expands. Now, granted, it still heats up the thing a lot, but it's nowhere near as bad as, say, a single sea level firing at sea level. I think a camera could survive that without a problem and be able to transmit data. You also have to remember the hot staging on this one is going to look different than, say, the last flight, because it's more open. There's more area for the gas to escape. So I'm kind of curious to see how it's going to look as well.
How is that going to affect performance? How is that going to affect the actual hot staging?
It'll
mean,
probably be better
it-
for the booster chip.
It might, yeah, because there would be like less pressure pushing on the dome on top of the booster, I would think. And it also might give more control over exactly how they want the booster to flip in the exhaust of the ship, right?
Yeah, it should provide a little bit more control, and it might even be in a more efficient hot stage than the last one. So in theory, you get I don't know how much more performance you'd get out of it, but in theory, you could probably get a little bit more out. Maybe not really noticeable, but it'd be there.
All right. Home planet with an interesting question. I wanted to jump that in the queue right away. Do you or could you use astrophotography telescopes to follow ships? And the answer is actually yes. So, not all the time, but you will have seen footage shot through an astrophotography scope. If you watched the New Glenn launch, I had my. It's just an 8-inch telescope, but that brings us to like almost or a bit over 4,000 millimeter equivalent. And we're constantly exploring ways to improve views. But during New Glenn, from just right near the launch site, we were over at Jetty Park. We followed the second stage, fairing separation, and then I had to choose between the second stage and the first stage, and then I actually followed the first stage back until it was doing its re-entry burn. So we do put those to use. We've put them to use on Starship flights before as well. I was using an astrophotography type scope during Starship Flight 8. So if you saw some of the up close tracking shots of the engines, yes, we do. And I'm sure that's something we're all looking to do even more of to continue providing the absolute best footage that we can. I want to thank Jimmy James Deman for becoming a Capcom member. Thank you so much for becoming a Capcom member. We have Ninja Decimator with a $20 super chat. I'm so happy to be seeing a new booster tonight with the team. Yeah, it's so great. Of course, Ninja Decimator, pew pew pew, here a part of the team, and it's so nice to always see a new booster.
You know, I don't miss Jack on the daily, but I miss him when you try to do pew pew pew. I'm just saying.
Really, Kevin?
Yeah.
First
yeah,
in all the pre-stream talking,
I'm calling you out.
You're bringing up the face during that. Now you're making fun of my pew pew pews.
I do miss Jack a lot.
We all miss Jack.
I'm gonna pull a question out of chat. Short Claude Productions asks, "What's the pipeline for dealing with all of your cameras? Are you using NDI or something else?" We are not using NDI, and primarily because we are compressing our feeds before they get sent up to the cloud. So we are generally using SRT from the field up to the cloud, and then we actually use NDI at the end of the pipeline. And you also asked, do we have separate PCs running your 24/7 streams? We have a total of 16 servers that are running all of our streams on the daily. And then for big launches like Starship, we supplement that with other cloud services.
There's like so much technical stuff that goes into the back end of being able to support these streams, all these cameras, run stuff 24/7, and be able to scale it for the major launch streams. That, I mean, Kevin, it's not like you just have one computer running the stream. It's like all these servers working together for different parts of the job. Like, there's a lot of infrastructure.
There is a lot of infrastructure, and one of the problems we've run into. You keep hearing me say, "I want more cameras. I want more cameras." Well, you know what? Every camera we add means we need more horsepower in our servers, or we need more servers, or we need better internet. And that's something that we've constantly been doing. And those of you who are members have probably seen our server building streams and our server rack mounting streams, and have heard me talk a lot about that. But that has been our big project for the last 2 years, is upgrading all of our infrastructure, starting from each of our sites at Starbase, and our site at KSC, and our site at Port Canaveral. And that starts with upgrading the cameras, upgrading the wiring, updating the internet circuits, or now we're looking at layer 2 circuits that are going to each of our sites. And once we can actually get the data from the field to the studio, we've had to upgrade our servers and upgrade the network. And it's a huge project. It's a very huge project that we were working on in the last couple of years.
Yeah, I'm really glad you found that question, because this is really your wheelhouse. So, I mean, there's so much. And I also want to mention, if you're in the members Discord, under the tech chat, there's an NSF tech chat channel or thread. And that is basically Kevin's thread, where all of the challenges and efforts get talked about. So, I mean, there's so much information of every different little thing. Short Cloud Productions, thank you for that excellent question. Aiden Leary is wondering, with a $10 super chat, thank you for the support, if you think a ship could be certified to fly over population areas, kind of like an airplane, or if certifications for rockets even work like that. I mean, I don't think it's quite just like a thumbs up to fly. It has a lot more to work with the FAA there, Ryan.
So, Starship currently has the license to go into orbit. The hilarious part about it is they do not have the authorization to re-enter. You might think that's funny, but that's how the license is written. They need to get the license, the sign off to re-enter, and then of course the where they re-enter is based off of their orbit and everything. And basically, SpaceX, as with anything else, you try to avoid population centers if you can. I'm pretty sure if they can't. But I mean, I assume the re-entry quarter would be approved by the FAA in licensing to be able to re-enter. And of course, there's always emergencies. If there's an emergency and you got to re-enter, well, you got to re-enter wherever it is. So that's, as far as I understand, that's where they're going with that.
Yeah, and the booster is continuing to make its way down Massey Way here. So if y'all have any last-minute questions, whether they be more production-oriented or technical detail, get them in now with that at NSF or at NASASpaceflight. River Dave Kenny is wondering, might they try for Hawaii again?
I mean, they do have the authorization to land off the coast of Hawaii. They have a couple of zones that are signed off environmentally speaking. But considering the repetitiveness and everything, I would expect this flight 12 with 39 and 18, to do a repeat of every single flight since you go all the way back to Flight 3, which is take off, either you try to catch or splash the booster down, and then Ship 39 lands in the Indian Ocean. And I would also expect them to do it in the afternoon so that the ship lands during the daytime and they can check on the heat shield. That's my expectation for Flight 12. If that goes well, as we were talking about earlier, Flight 13 might be full send. Let's go. We have the approval to re-enter from orbit. Let's go. Let's try to catch this ship. But we'll see how this flight goes.
Indeed, we will. Now, this one is a bit more of a me or KMR question. Home Planet wondering, or maybe this is a statement. I'm not certain, but there are special resistant cameras that can take being in a blast furnace. So, even with the heat potential, there are the additional challenges of, in a blast furnace, is the camera directly taking hit from like debris as well? And at least for the cameras we deploy in the field, we have to be ready for the lenses to be etched with burning hot bits of sand. And there are certainly some locations I've set cameras where once you set a lens there, that lens is toast. And so you need to have, at the very least, like a glass UV filter in front of it to protect the front element, or just be ready to not be able to use that camera lens anywhere else.
I mean, the last couple launches, we've lost probably at least one camera per launch, right, from Starbase?
I think
we
at
have.
least the last 2 or 3 Starships have resulted in damage to CP-11. In addition, during flights 9 and 10, I lost or was significantly damaged one lens each for one of mine. But yeah, it's something you can try to prepare for and protect for, but to a certain extent, if you're also putting extra glass in front of things, you're hurting the quality a bit, and sometimes is it worth the trade-off, or is the shot that you're going to get having that little bit of extra sharpness worth it to lose that lens? It's a trade-off. And now we're really getting near Masseys here, but a name I recognize in chat, Carson Phillips. This is a Kevin question, I think. Kevin, why should you only operate streams with vMix shortcuts and not Stream Decks?
Carson, maybe you shouldn't be operating this stream. Because you shouldn't operate with vMix shortcuts only. Because that's just, what, using a keyboard? You have to clarify this question. Are you using a keyboard like Ryan Caton and then having to remember which letter is programmed to which command? Yeah, no. Stream Deck all the way.
How many buttons do you have in your Stream Deck, Kevin?
There are 32 buttons on my Stream Decks, and I have 8 of them. There are generally 4 of them set up in front of me.
It's a lot of buttons to remember.
It is, but at least they say what they are on the button instead of trying to guess. Oh, A is switch to camera 1, B is switch to camera 2. Yeah, no. Thank you.
Kevin, I set up one of my decks with not my Stream Deck. I set up my shortcut board for DaVinci Resolve to function as a vMix one, and so I didn't have any labels on any of my buttons. And I know that there were many a time I went to hit like a sound effect, and it was the wrong sound effect, or it was a cut, or having proper labels that can adjust on the go would certainly be the way to go. Carson, I don't know if Carson's able at all to quickly respond.
Carson's just being a troll right now. That's what that is, because Carson has a bunch of stream decks sitting in front of him. I know that for a fact.
Yeah, but we can poke fun. Anyway.
Okay.
Alan W. Turtles says, I always have a filter on all my lenses. I call them clear lens caps. I do try to get the best quality filters I can. I can't afford to replace lenses on the regular. Yeah, that's totally a great way to do it and helps keep lenses safe. It would protect a ton of them. It's a trade-off, and there are certainly plenty of high-quality filters that you can throw in front to keep them safe that work well. Now, Mr. Tim has a question about at what frame rates do the cams at the pad run? Sometimes it feels like the cams are cutting some frames out. So I'll talk about the frame rates. When I'm deploying my slow-mo cameras, those are running internally to record at 120 or 240. So if I've set a camera out there, it's usually running at one of those frame rates, but it'll be sending an SRT feed at either 30 FPS or 60 FPS, and in certain rare cases, it will be sending an SRT feed at 24 FPS. Kevin, as far as some of the frames being cut out, some of that is definitely that will show up when I have cameras set at 24 for sure, but that's not all of the case.
No. Sometimes it's network issues. Like I mentioned a couple minutes ago, we're upgrading our network from beginning to end. Yeah. Figuring out the signal flow from camera to live stream is difficult, especially in the conditions at Starbase. And we do drop a lot of frames, and that's something we're working on. We cannot run fiber to each of our sites. We cannot run fiber to every single camera. So we're using a wireless network that we've built around Starbase, and sometimes that drops frames, and it's very challenging conditions because the weather affects that. The other RF in the area affects that. So yeah, we do drop frames, and that's something we're working on. If you watched the last launch, we had a technical problem that we've kind of gotten down to the reason why that happened, but we were dropping a lot more frames than we normally do.
As someone who has been in 8-hour-long overnight calls, Kevin is constantly working and reading logs and all sorts of things to try to get to the absolute bottom of any of those issues that appear. We always try our best, and Kevin puts in so much time to making sure we can hunt down those problems.
Yeah, I mean, we started our own anomaly report, literally, or anomaly investigation immediately after the last flight to figure out why. And we've gone down several tracks to figure out why that happened. And we're pretty sure we've narrowed it down to a few things and are working to fix all of those.
Yeah, so stay tuned and keep watching, because the views and qualities and cameras will only continue to be getting better. So Cade was wondering when, of course, we're looking here at Booster 18 and its trip to Masseys for cryo testing, but at what point might Ship 39 begin its testing, and when would Pad 2 be ready for a static fire?
Well, Ship 39 is going to have to wait its turn because the ship cryo stand that it needs in order to do its cryo, which it probably wouldn't even be ready for that for maybe another month because it just got stacked, is going to be used by a test tank. That's going to be 39.1. There it is in Mega Bay 2. That is a test tank for an aft ship basically. So ship aft, and they're going to thrust sim test that. Now, the hilarious part about all this Block 3 testing is SpaceX went and tested Booster 18.1, which was the aft test article for Block 3 of Booster. That thing has been inside the cage at Masseys since May and is not out yet. And because of that, SpaceX had to recommission the old can crusher stand and stick B18.3 on there, which is the forward truss test article. They built a second cap, which will go on that, so they can crush test the cap, or the cap is going to be used for 39.1 here. And they're going to have to kind of mess around and use the ship cryo stand for this because they don't have another stand to use because the cage is being used. So SpaceX is kind of in a rut or whatever with Block 3 testing. Once 39.1 is done on that stand, and then they modify it with Block 3 ship clamps, then 39 can go on and start it. When that will happen, guess is as good as mine. They are taking their times with these test tanks, and it could be a while. That's part of the reason why I still think launch isn't until March or April, because they have to test all these test tanks. Then they have to test the vehicles themselves and make sure everything's good. And then they have to full stack test everything as well. And with regards for B-18 static fire, basically the pad should be more or less ready for a Booster 18 static fire, assuming all the control systems are good to go with the QDs, a tank farm, and everything else. Ship-wise, there's still obviously things because they can't load a ship even if they stacked it because there's no ship QD arm installed right now. So that has to get done.
Hey, Ryan.
Yeah.
Can they static fire in the rain?
Sure. What could go wrong?
Oh, come on. You had one job there, Ryan. You had one job.
Hey, D, I have a question for you. Can they static fire in the rain?
Yeah, probably. It wasn't good, but it was the right answer.
Much better than Ryan's answer.
I had to be different. I just had to. Sorry.
By different, you mean wrong here.
True. Yes, exactly. As Kevin always likes to say, I'm always wrong. So, yeah.
Only when you turn on the pessimist. I like to be an optimist.
So, changing tune a bit here, since we've got this split screen of some cutting on the leg, when might we see these two last legs of the OLM come down, Ryan?
Could be tomorrow. They've been going
Okay.
pretty quick with that. Could be by the end of the week. The other fun note on that screen is you can see there's a crane hooked up to the chopsticks. It is hooked up to the end of the left chopstick that is the perspective from the tower, looking from the tower. My guess is they are waiting till the morning, and then they're going to go up there and they're going to slice the end of that stick off. They're just going to slice off the truss section. And there you go. You'll have shorter chopsticks. Then they got to do it to the other side too, but they still have to remove the landing rail from the other side. So they didn't take the sticks off and rebuild them or repair them. They are modifying them in place, but there's still a lot of work to do to get them even remotely operational again, because they're in pieces at this point. This last mile's taking a while.
It's just the last little bit to get to Masseys itself. It is almost 2 a.m. Central Time. How about that? And I don't think I've called it out on stream, but I need to say a huge thank you to the Rocket Ranch Outpost, where we have some cameras, and we love to hang out during launch. There's such a the outpost is such a great spot to watch one of these launches from. It's really the best view and audio, and they are great friends. Anthony, we appreciate you so much. I just want to say thank you for that, because like this cam in particular would not be possible if it were not for them. So with this move, we are seeing that a whole bunch of work on Pad 1, but so are they building a new ship quick disconnect arm for it at the moment? Do we have progress on that, or what exactly would be needed?
They haven't started building a new one yet. We don't know if they'll modify the one that's currently on there. They would have to take everything out from the inside and basically cut it up, because the primary structure has to get changed. I honestly think what they'll do is they'll build a new one from scratch, but they're a long way away from needing that new ship QD arm, being ready for that pad. They still got to take those two legs down. They got to take the plate out. They are redoing the entire back side of the tower where all the drawworks are. Those have all been removed. The dead spool and the motor have all been removed. Basically, even if they're going to replace the whole thing, they're not really in a rush. They don't even have the approval to expand the land yet that they would be required to even fully build out the pad at the moment and add all the other stuff they want to do. So it's not really a priority, but I think they'll rebuild a new one from scratch at some point.
Right. So Cade was asking if we could get a super close view of the ship and booster during a catch. Define super close, because we've gotten some incredibly close views already. To the extent that if we get much closer, the width of the booster doesn't really fit in frame anymore. But yeah, stay tuned, and we will always be trying to get the best views we possibly can. We don't have much longer to go, though. With this roll here, we should be getting close to the gate to Masseys, right? Yeah, there we go.
We're basically at Masseys. It should be entering Masseys any second now. Yeah, there's B18.3, B18.1, the LR11,000 that's there. Pretty sure that's a cellular antenna, and then they'll go past those test articles, and then they'll park right at the booster cryo test stand, which is all set up and ready to go for it. And they'll cryo test and thrust in this booster. Get for the first time for a Block 3.
All right, now here is... I want to hear from Kevin, and I want to hear from Ryan. Oh, there you go. So that left-hand side view is from the Starbase tracking Figma board, which if you don't follow Starbase tracking, you should. It's a great team, and I mean, it's this incredible overview map of the production site, Masseys, and the launch site out at Starbase. It's honestly the easiest way to know like where everything is, where everything is at this moment. Because if we were looking at production site, you could see what's in which spot in the bays. So this is a super cool view, and you can see Booster 18 is entering Masseys. Next question, though, from Highly Regarded that I wanted to ask to both Kevin and Ryan. What do you think is better, SpaceX hot staging or New Glenn pneumatic pushers?
Hot staging. Like the pneumatic pushers are cool, but SpaceX uses that too on Falcon 9. It's the same thing. It's just they use a bunch more pushers to push away a much heavier stage than the Falcon 9 second stage. Hot staging it's a really, really cool thing. It's been used for a while, but it has never been used for a rocket this size, other than like N1. And N1 never really got much staging in its life. So
I don't know how to answer that question, so I don't know why you sent it to me.
What do you prefer? What's cooler?
I mean,
It
I
doesn't
think
have to
hot
be a
staging
technical base.
is really cool. I think it's really cool. But I mean, there's different ways for everything, right? And one company chooses one way to do it, and the other company chooses another way to do it, and they're different rockets, and whatever works for the rocket and the designers and the engineers, and yeah, I know that's not a fun answer. I think hot staging looks really cool,
I think
but
Carson in the back channel has the best point that the hot staging jellyfish is going to be so incredible.
mm-hmm.
I mean, the jellyfish on Falcon 9 is incredible too,
Oh, absolutely. Um,
and probably
and
New
so,
Glenn.
I mean, they're going to be great.
Right?
All these
Like,
rockets are great, and so it is hard to choose a favorite. Ooh, I'm sorry, we just got a photo in the back channel. I shouldn't have reacted already until we can get that on stream. But we got a photo from Caesar out in the field. I haven't thanked the field team enough tonight. We have Caesar out there, we have Gage out there, and I believe as well we have Colleen out there, all getting shots, all covering this roll. So as soon as we have that photo ready, y'all will be seeing it. Take a look at that. That's so cool. So that's right as Booster 18 is starting its roll onto Highway 4. And I mean, you can see all the SPMT wheels moving, the plumbing on that booster.
Speaking of the next picture, you asked for plumbing. Next to
Yeah, I wasn't gonna talk about the photo until it's ready to be shown. I didn't want to put Carson on the spot and rush him too much, but the photos that Caesar is sending are just getting better and better. These are super cool.
Trying to remember if we had laid out which one was which, because there's tap offs. I gotta look again. I don't remember.
And we can see Booster 18 is still moving here into Masseys. There we go, with some of those real up-close pictures from Caesar.
So basically, what you're looking at is all of the electrical and gas and bleed and autonomous pressurization that has to deal with the engines. So you can even see they're even labeled. Each of these boxes leads into a set of ports, which then goes down to the engine, which will be your tap-off gas for. It's basically your spin start, your igniter gas, as well as eventually your tap-off gas. So the tap-off, so basically your autonomous pressurization, whether that's gas for the O2 tank or gas for the methane tank. There's power to go to the engine as well. So they're basically split in all these boxes, one per engine. You might see one says E9, one says E23 there. That's because, well, E23 is on the outer ring, and E9, well, that's on the inner ring of 10. So basically, they're just labeled out as they go all the way through. There are certain junction boxes in there where there's convergence that goes up to the QD, as you can see. The one cool thing about this booster is no more Raptor QDs. All 20 of those Raptor QDs, they are gone. Gone. Torn asunder. The spin start will occur through the QDs there. That is the LOX QD right there. The lovely breakaway hoses they had for Pad 1, those are gone now. The liquid oxygen engine chill is now collected through the QD, and it'll go back through the QD and back to the tank farm. So a lot of huge improvements, cool changes. You can pick this thing apart, running and following tubes all over the place, but it's a work of art, honestly. It's a work of art, and I love it.
Kevin, I can't believe you didn't comment on those cube zooms. And this photo now is a behind-the-scenes shot from Gauge. You can see as I think that's right outside the road, Massey Way, before the booster made its final turn in there. Correct me if I'm wrong. Yes.
Yeah.
Great to see the team out to provide all these views that you have had tonight. So, Ryan, are we expecting... How much more movement can we expect? I think we just saw the booster starting to move a bit more. Where will its final resting place for the night be at Masseys?
It'll be a little bit more. It'll be a little bit to the left off screen. There's a set of QDs where it'll basically slot into. It's just before where there's a new basically blast wall that's getting built for the methane tank farm, because SpaceX learned from their lesson. How about you build a blast wall and a bunker for your methane farm rather than leave it out in the open in case a ship blows up? But anywho, lessons learned. That's the lessons learned. It's SpaceX usually takes those to heart in these programs sometimes, but it'll be off to the left a little bit more, and then it'll sit and get tested.
Well,
When cryo?
yeah, when cryo? We've talked about it a bit, but
They could be as early as today or as late as a couple of days or several days from now. With it being the first Block 3 booster, they may do some extra checkouts here and there. May do some a couple of ambient tests and run through the valves and whatnot before actually filling it with cryogenic fluid. But we'll see. It could be tonight. It could be in a couple of days.
When launch?
March. I think March.
March.
Yeah.
DYs, when launch?
February.
I'm going to agree with you. February.
And I think I know for sure what Ryan's answer here is, but I want to put you on the spot. What do you think the outcome of the first V3 launch will be?
Asking me right off the bat or Kevin?
Let's hear Kevin's first, and then we'll hear what your thoughts are.
I think there is so much on the line for V3 that SpaceX has put all the work that they need to into this, and it's going to be 100% perfect, like Flight 11.
Okay.
That's it. It's going to be such a boring flight because it's all going to go right.
What a positive outlook. Ryan?
I am an optimist. Now you go to the pessimist.
What's your inverse take of this?
Do you want the inverse take? Like,
I want to hear your true opinion, which I believe is the inverse take.
true opinion of this flight. I will put an asterisk on it. If they test everything before they fly, fully test B18.1, fully test B18.3, and fully test S39.1, and make any modifications they need to make before they fly this thing, then yes, I think they can make it perfect and get all the way, have it repeat of Flight 11, move on to catch on Flight 13. If they don't test it fully and they rush into a flight, I wouldn't be surprised if at stage separation that ship blows to pieces. That's, yeah.
Perfect flight.
And on that bombshell, well, I think it will. This might be too pessimistic a take. I am slightly concerned that we might get a second stage non-re-entry. Like they're changing so much. I hope I'm wrong. I hope this goes flawlessly. I think there's a good chance it does go flawlessly. But I'll take the middle ground take of maybe second stage doesn't quite work perfectly, but they've got the boosters down.
With a clean sheet design booster, full pessimism, pad fallback.
All right.
Carson, can you start playing the outro music?
Yeah, let's wrap this up, y'all. Thank you all for hanging out for tonight's stream. Booster 18 has made it to Masseys. I think you can still see the drone hovering nearby, so we should get some cool shots. But there are lots of people to thank, starting with the people in the field. We had Colleen out there, we had Gage out there, and we had Caesar all out there to capture photos and provide videos of tonight. Of course, at the start of the stream, we had the absolute pleasure of having Chris B hanging out with us for the evening. And throughout tonight's stream, we have had KMR on commentary. Kevin, thank you very much for being on the stream.
It's my pleasure, D-Wise. I'm glad to barge in, even when you don't want me on the stream.
No,
I want you.
Let me tell you, when it was going to be a two-voice stream, that would have been way more of a challenge. And having your voice here, being able to talk a bit about the technical side of stuff, I love getting to talk about that sort of stuff. I say the technical stuff. Ryan has the rocket technical stuff. We have the camera technical stuff. It's been a pleasure. Of course, also, Ryan, thank you for joining for tonight's commentary.
It's a pleasure as always, D. Let's hopefully see some cryo soon, and then a ship QD installed during the day today.
Absolutely. Now, moving around all the cameras that weren't operated by a human in Starbase, we've had a number of SBL ops. We've had Eric, we've had Pizza, we've had RC Horseman, and we have Ninja Decimator. Pew, pew, pew. Thank you for operating all of those cameras.
It's still so bad, D. It's so bad. You need to work on your pews.
I do. Pew, pew, pew. I can't right now. I've been awake for way too long. But operating tonight's stream, Carson, thank you so much for operating the stream. I have been your host this evening, D-Wise. It's been an absolute pleasure hanging out with y'all and taking a look out at everything that's happening at Starbase. And with that, we will see you all next time.
And here we go.
good.
Doubling up. Roger, Lieutenant.
Tango down to nominal.
Flight comes SPD off. Bring in SPD off. Off. It's orange!
45! Oh my god!
Décollage.
Put that in the big bag, Tingle.
343 unfolds to go.
Indeed.
We rise together back to the moon and beyond.
This methane will be igniting in the flare, correct?